Anniversary Solitaire, June 17th, 1992. Dear Harold, it's our 42nd wedding anniversary. Remember how we used to play Remember every anniversary day? Patty is in Siberia with Campus Crusade for Christ. Steve is in Orlando, Florida, teaching horn to a drum and bugle corps. And Kathy is getting ready to fly to Florida on vacation with her whole family. You have been past remembering anything for over 10 years. I will have to play Remember Solitaire today. It is strange celebrating 42 years together when it has really only been 32 years of real marriage with the person I married. But what a lovely 32 years. Remember our go-between, Paul Reiger, who was your roommate and my co-worker in the college library, who must have sold you on me the way he sold me on you. When you finally checked out a book in the reserve area where I worked, and I knew who you were, I went back to the dorm and announced, "Girls, I have met the man I'm going to marry." I was acting a fool, of course, but I'd never said that, even in jest, about anybody else. Remember how hard it was for you to say, "I love you," for the first time? I had to break off our relationship for one miserable, aching night that I thought was forever before you were ready to say it. I did not know that, steadfast as you were, if you gave your word, you would never, ever take it back. Remember waiting to ask me to marry you until we were walking in the romantic walkway made through a trench of the old Civil War fort on the top of College Heights? Remember writing to your mother and asking her to take $500 out of your savings account and put it in a checking account without telling her it was for a ring? Remember the day we went to Hardig and Binzel on the square of Bowling Green and bought the rings, and my insisting on going to the dime store later to buy some furniture for our home, and we bought a set of measuring spoons? Remember coming back to the fort to put the ring on my finger? Remember when you would not let me go back on my word to Waterman, Illinois School District because I had signed a contract? You were willing to forego a year of marriage to make my word good. Remember the daily letters I wrote you and the ones you wrote me? Yours mostly said "I love you," but mine are a journal of my first year of high school teaching. You sent me a picture of your new metallic green 1949 Chevrolet, one of the first post-year models. You were beautiful. So was the car, and so was the scenery. My friends laughed that they had to look at it so much that one time they would admire the man, the next time they would admire the car, and the third time they would admire the scenery. Remember we had to get our marriage license at Easter so we could fulfill the mandatory 3-day waiting period? We wanted to get married June 17th, 2 weeks after I got back from Illinois. We would only have a weekend to get married, as you would be teaching through July. Remember stopping at the park on the way from my home to Louisville that weekend and sitting in the car and necking until it was so late getting to the railroad station that I had to run to catch my train to Chicago? It was pulling out, just like in the movies. Remember the 7.5 hours it took to drive from Paintsville to South Hill after 4 o'clock on that Friday afternoon? You would not ask Mr. Preston to let you off early from Mayo, where you taught drafting. I remember you got there about midnight. I was not worried that you would not come. You had said you would be there. The next morning I put on the white linen suit, hat, and shoes I had bought in Illinois, and you put on the double-breasted navy summer suit you had bought at Curry's in Paintsville. I kissed Mother and Daddy goodbye, and we went to Bowling Green by ourselves to get married. We went by the florist shop and picked up a corsage with 6 red rosebuds. You gave me a triple strand of cultured pearls for a wedding present. I wore it as my only jewelry. When we got to the church, Brother Harold Purdy was working in his study. He excused himself, went home, changed clothes, and put on a suit nearly identical to yours. Pat and Austin McCubbin were our only attendants, and Maisie Lee, the church secretary, was the only guest. I see her now and then at Baptist meetings, and I always hug her and say, "This woman was the only guest at my wedding." The wedding went off without a hitch, with none of the hoopla that accompanied Kathy's wedding 25 years later. Pat and Austin threw rice at us coming down the steps of First Baptist Church in Bowling Green. We stopped somewhere and had lunch, and went to the Springs Motel in Lexington to spend the night. The next morning we headed for your home at Denver. You insisted that I wear my wedding outfit, as your mother and Daddy would want to see me in it. When we got there, the house had been painted and scrubbed until it glowed. Your mother had cooked everything she could find for the inn fare, which I learned was the ancient name for the meal prepared by the groom's family when the son takes a bride home. Remember, we spent Saturday night at your parents' house, and Monday morning we went bright and early to our 3-room furnished apartment on West Street that you had rented. You went to Mayo Monday morning, and I went up the street to Walker Meek's hardware store and bought an iron skillet, an ironing board, and an iron. All necessities. I still have the skillet, as it is indestructible, and the ironing board, which has had precious little use in the past few years. We had linens from a shower my colleagues had given me in Waterman, and a set of dishes from a surprise shower my former roommate, Mary Louise Dotson, had got together with friends in a dorm when I spent the night there on the way home from Illinois. Remember the nights and weekends we spent in that little apartment? I couldn't have been happier on honeymoon in Hawaii or the Bahamas. Remember, you promised we would go on a honeymoon trip someday when we could enjoy the scenery? I think that's the only promise you made to me that you did not fulfill. Now I'm going on trips by myself, but I wish you were able to come with me. Thank you, Harold, for being a loving, supportive, uncritical husband when I was not as good a housekeeper as your mother was, and I had a tendency to put on 20 unsheddable pounds every time I got pregnant. Thank you for being so honest and trustworthy. I have always admired and respected you because you would not lie for any reason. You were a good son to your parents, a valuable employee, a morally upright deacon, a loving, considerate father, a trustworthy husband, and a consummate lover. Until the Alzheimer's disease clouded your brain, I never heard you speak an off-color word. Your whole life was wrapped up in your family, your church, and your work. I'm grateful for the 32-year honeymoon you took me on, most of which was spent in the house we moved into in November of 1950. I'm still here, Harold. Though your breathing body is in the Veterans Hospital in Lexington, you are here with me in every cabinet and bookshelf you built, in every piece of furniture you refinished, in the vibrations from every moment of love we shared here, and in the lives of the 3 beautiful children you gave me. And you will be in my heart forever. I love you, June.